Good evening and thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Mark Thomas. The opioid epidemic is costly for Nebraska communities, and some are taking those responsible for the epidemic to court. 3 News Now reporter Alex Whitney joins us live in the newsroom with the details for us tonight. Alex.
That's right, Mark. Opioid manufacturers have already been to court several times and have reached settlements in the hundreds of millions of dollars for their part in causing the opioid epidemic. But some communities are now turning their attention to those who marketed the drugs, including 2 right here in Nebraska. The true toll of the opioid epidemic is nearly impossible to measure. The CDC says more than 68,000 American lives were lost in 2020, but that doesn't include the untold number of communities, families, friends, and neighbors who had to bear the costs of addiction.
It's at the core of many problems in society. It's at the core of people dropping out of school. It's at the core of marriages breaking up. It's at the core of child abuse. It's at the core of gambling addiction. But it has this ripple effect, has an impact on crime. And so you can just name a number of different elements in which it has impacted our society and has a cost to every one of our citizens.
And its effects are growing in Nebraska.
So while we are not seeing a problem like in some other places in the country, we have seen an increase over the last few years, especially with the COVID pandemic.
Purdue Pharma, the main manufacturer of opioids, has been at the heart of most of the lawsuits regarding the opioid epidemic, but it isn't the only company responsible. Mckinsey & Company, one of the largest consulting firms in the world, was the brains behind much of the messaging that misled doctors and patients.
Companies like Purdue Pharmacy and other companies began to market it as opioids as just beyond cancer treatments and a cure for all sorts of pain, even though they knew the data on that wasn't accurate.
Mckinsey has already settled a multi-million-dollar lawsuit with the state of Nebraska for its role, but smaller communities are now taking the firm to court to recover some of the costs that they had to bear responding to the epidemic. Sarpy County, along with Sioux City, have filed a RICO lawsuit against Mckinsey & Company, seeking unspecified damages for the company's participation in expanding opioid sales, even after Purdue Pharma originally pled guilty to misleading doctors in 2007. Under federal law, those damages could be tripled if the courts rule in favor of the plaintiffs. But while these communities wait for a legal recourse, medical professionals continue to respond to the epidemic. And they say if you are struggling with addictions, the first and sometimes hardest step is reaching out for help.
First line is to talk to your primary care provider. Most people have one, and just tell them what's going on. Tell them you're struggling.
If you or a loved one is struggling with addiction, there is help available here in the community. Reach out to your doctor to start taking steps towards recovery, and you can head to our website, 3newsnow.com, for a list of local addiction resources. Reporting live in the newsroom, Alex Whitney, 3 News Now.